So you enjoy crocheting and you thought, okay, let me start a business, but then you actually haven't thought about a lot of things. In this video, I'm going to cover things that you definitely need to think about before you call yourself a crochet business owner, because it's not the same as somebody who crochets as a hobby. So if this is you, then definitely stick around until the end, and also leave your comments and questions below so that we can address all the issues. Now let's get to it.
About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away.
The first point that I want to make when it comes to crochet business is, if you don't enjoy doing the same thing over and over and over, then you definitely should not think about crocheting items, because people might like a hat that you made. You're a creative person, I'm a creative person, and honestly doing the same thing over and over sometimes can just drive me up the wall. But if that is what is selling at the moment, like if you say maybe you make crochet bucket hats and that is what is selling, people want it over and over in different colors and all of that, you might get tired of doing that. So think about it. If you are somebody that's creative and you start this project, you see something inspiring, you start that project and all of that, then then you definitely need to think about perhaps just working on crochet patterns instead of having patterns and also selling items, and because it can become a lot, or instead of just selling items. So you need to think of other ways that you can actually make money while you're doing your your crochet things. So I am going to move on to point number 2, but I have an extra. I was going to do 5 points, but I actually have an extra point that I want to discuss towards the end that came to mind. Point number 2 is the issue of making complicated designs and also using expensive yarn. So unfortunately, in most cases, people still see crochet as a hobby and something that shouldn't cost a lot of money, unfortunately, because of fast fashion. We're not going to mention the companies, but you know them. They have ambassadors online selling for them, killing your own economy. But let's just not get into that video, because that's a whole other different video. So crochet is not cheap because it takes a lot of time. Now, if you come into the crochet business and you want to use I don't know which country you're coming from, but if you want to use 100% cotton, for example, it is freaking expensive in South Africa, because your costs have to, you have to do the cost of times that it takes for you to make, and a little bit of profit on top of that. So you're going to price, if say for example 100% cotton is like 50 rand per yarn, and then you end up using 3 yarns for a top, because usually cotton also is not a lot of yarn, like the length is not as much as the acrylic, and then you're gonna price that top for 150 rand. Then people look at, I can buy a top at this shop for 20. Why is it so expensive? It's you made it anyway, which handmade is better than machine made, and even sewing, because sewing doesn't take as long. But unfortunately, people don't appreciate the amount of time it takes to actually make stuff. So if you make your costs really high, like creating complicated patterns, thinking that people will appreciate the fact that this pattern takes longer to do the sketch than that pattern, unfortunately I have not seen it happen. I've seen people come into the business with, I'm gonna take over and I'm gonna do mine different, I'm gonna use cotton, and yes, it's just gonna be popping, and then 2 months down the line the business is not running anymore, because you started as a hobby, you were enjoying it, and then you like the feel of cotton, which is amazing. But then other people that are not in the crochet space, they might not even understand the difference between cotton and acrylic, and sometimes they don't even care. They just want this top that looks cute on them, and that is it. Whereas you put all this energy. So before you do expensive things, really think about the market that you're going to target. There are markets that you can do expensive stuff, like maybe baby blankets for, you know, the people that have a lot of money or things like that. But definitely think about who you're trying to sell the things to before you start making tops that are expensive to make, to produce. And yeah, so really think about that one, the materials that you use. Point number 3 is taking custom orders. I have taken custom orders, and I'm gonna tell you the most difficult thing about custom orders is pricing. Like, somebody looks at something, oh, I like this, and then they send it to you, and of course you can do it, but you've never done it before. And I've taken projects where I realized later that this took a lot of time. Like, it would have cost more if I actually knew how much this thing would actually cost properly to make. But with custom orders, and then you have different colors and all of that, you don't know how long it's going to take to make. Unless you're a fast crocheter, then maybe custom is not a big deal for you. But yeah, custom orders, I love them, and people do want custom orders. But the issue is, when it comes to pricing, it's hard to price things that you have not made before. Point number 4 is to think about the fact that people are going to copy your work. I have had people inboxing me. I'm from South Africa, and I've had people in South Africa taking somebody else's work who's also in South Africa and sending it to me, asking me how much do I make this for. Like, I'm flattered. I like that you prefer my work over somebody else's. But there's definitely, then, if that's how people are doing it, then that means that there's people that are taking my work and sending it to somebody else to copy the work. So it's painful. It's a painful truth, but it does happen. People will take your work and go to somebody else who will maybe price it cheaper. And unfortunately, some crochet people, like, the price that I put are very fair prices. I'm not ridiculously pricing things high, but you do get other people that will compromise themselves just to have that thing produced. Like, this top, maybe I will say, is 250 rand for a reason, because of the amount of work. Maybe I even crochet faster than you crochet slower, but then you're gonna charge the person 200 rand, which means you've taken so many hours sitting down crocheting this thing longer than I would have, and then you price it lower. It does not make sense. Like, you're killing yourself, you're killing your business. That's not a business. If somebody, like, this person once came to me and they said, can you crochet this? And I said, why didn't you order it from the other person? Oh no, I like your work. Okay, then maybe that's time for me to charge you extra for that work, and see if you still want my work, then definitely come through. I'll do that, but I'm going to charge more than the other person charged. So it's, crochet is kind of messy. Handmade is kind of messy. People are copying people left, right, and center, and it's something that you have to think about. And patterns fall under this as well. Like, you get people that go on Etsy and all of that and buy the patterns, and then after they buy the patterns, then they make that thing and then resell the pattern as if it's theirs. And also, another thing is, you could be selling a pattern, but I mean, if I'm looking at that thing, I don't have to buy the pattern. I can make the top. I mean, if you're doing something that's less complicated and you do a pattern for it, I can look at it and replicate the work, because I know how to crochet. I'm not just going on YouTube to look at other people's work and replicating that. I know how to crochet. I know the single crochet, the double crochet, all of that. So if you are thinking of starting a business, then you definitely need to think about that, like how you're going to protect, if you want to do patterns, how you're going to protect your patterns from the thieves. If you want to do, single items, how are you going to protect that? Because people can make them and not post them. You won't even know that somebody made the same top as you for somebody else for cheaper, because they don't post it. So it's something to definitely think about. Point number 5 is making the same items as everybody. People don't learn how to crochet. People go onto YouTube. They don't start with the basics of crochet. They go onto YouTube, they crochet a top by Hoo Hoo, Everybody and their mama and their cousin crochet that top. It's nothing unique. Like the butterfly top, everybody has crocheted the butterfly top. Some people did try to make it different, and it does, stand out a little bit more. But the fact of the matter is, you're going to be selling it, that person is going to be selling it, that person is going to be selling it. So if you're selling the same thing as everybody else, then, it's going to be a tough one. So my advice is for you to actually learn how to crochet from the beginning. Learn how to make patterns yourself. Learn how to make things unique. Learn how to look at something and read the pattern instead of just going on YouTube, looking at this top, making that top. Tomorrow, looking at that top, making that top. Anybody can go to YouTube and make that top. So your business might not be so unique, and then it goes back to that thing where other people are charging less for the same top as you are making it. So that is another thing to think about. And one more, just from an advice perspective. If you enjoy crochet as a hobby and you see other people have started a business doing it, you don't have to do it. It can just be a hobby. You don't have to make money from it. But if you're going to make money from it, then you definitely need to take that business as a business. And that means that you have to count your coins. You have to count, the amount of petrol it takes to drive to the place to buy yarn, the cost of yarn, the time it takes to do something, and have working hours so that you can measure how long it takes to do something and charge accordingly and charge properly. Have a business plan. Know how many tops you need to make in order to make the amount of income that you want to do, and how many hours, how many tops you're going to need to sell. So I already said that. And how many hours it's going to take for you to make those tops. You need to start with how much money you want to earn a month, and then break it down from there, that I need to make this amount of tops, I need to make this amount of pants, I need to make this amount of hats in order to reach my goal of making this amount. And you need to break it down into a profit, cost and profit. So how much did it cost for you to do all of that, and the profit that you're making. And while you're doing that, you also need to keep in mind to include the amount, the petrol as well, little things like that. The petrol it takes for you to take something and to go and deliver it. So cost is everything. I hope this video has helped. I'm not trying to turn you from making, starting your crochet business. I just want you to start it on the right foot, having thought of so many other things that you might have not thought of, that I have went through and I have learned from experience. So thank you for joining me. This is my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. This is my channel for business, where I'm going to be talking all sorts of businesses, because I've started a couple. So I have experience in that. And if you want to follow the crochet account where I post videos, then I will link it below. You can check it out and check out the videos on how to make stuff. I'm not turning you away from how to make stuff. You can do that and sell them, but just be prepared and think of people that are also going to be watching the video and making them.